Hi and welcome to part 2 of this guide on the Create Performance task. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to actually create your own app. In the first part of this, we looked at the Netflix app, at the show and movie picker, and tried to understand how this app fulfills all of the requirements and how it works. The key to your own projects is really understanding how this app works and how it fulfills the requirements. If you understand this code, then you can choose a different idea that includes the same principles to create your own project. So what I would suggest is going to data and looking for a data set that you find interesting and that is similar to the Netflix one in the way that it contains some column with categories that you could filter for. So let's say you're into sports, we can check out what we find in NBA teams, for example. Let's do preview here. And then you see we have the division, for example, that would allow us to filter for different categories. So we could filter for Atlantic, we could filter for Central, we could filter for Southeast, and so on. So we could have some NBA picker team where we choose a division and filter for this. The same is true for a lot of these other categories here, or a lot of these other data sets as well. So your task for now to figure out what you could do is look through them, find something, and then create your own idea how to do this. Take some time to do this. You can pause the video here, go through the data sets, look at them, figure out where you have different columns that contain the same categories, and think about how this would make a good app where you can use this picker here so that you are actually able to have the user select a category or multiple categories if you want to do it like with the Netflix app, and then actually filter for this information. So have a filtered list here that goes through where you iterate over all of the values inside your list and you filter for the category that your user chose. Pause the video now, check this out, and then I'm going to show you another example when you continue the video. Alright, so I'm going to create my own example, and for that I'm going to go to unit, where are we now? Unit 9 to the Create Performance task. And that's what you guys can do too. You can just work here in the Create Performance task coding workspace. This will give you all the features you need for your Create Performance tasks, and it will automatically save everything in here. So whenever you come back to this lesson, you can continue your work on your projects. And you can also use the other lessons here in this unit to learn more about the Create Performance task and get more information. Now let's develop an idea. You guys have your own ideas now. I'm gonna show you one of my ideas, and then I'm gonna go through the steps of how you can create your apps. So let's go to animals. I want to do something here with dogs. I'm gonna show you this table, and I like this one here a lot because you see we have different breed groups. We have, for example, toy, we have terrier, we have working, and so on. And this is exactly what I'm gonna use for filtering. We could also use another of these categories, but I'm gonna keep it as simple as possible for this app, and I'm just gonna let the user filter for the breed group. And then the idea of the app is gonna be you can choose your breed group, so you can choose terrier or working, and then the app is gonna show you a random dog. So you can learn about new kinds of dogs that you haven't learned, that you don't know yet. This is the app idea. So sort of an educational app that teaches you new dog breeds. I've imported the table now. It's in my app. And now the first thing I'm going to do is actually create the user interface for my app. So I'm going to go to design, and you can of course start with a label here on the top that shows you what this app is about. So you can put in a text. I'm just going to call it dog app for now. You can change the properties, make it look pretty, change the colors, of course, to have the app look the way you want, the font size, and so on. I'm actually not going to do any of this stuff now because this is actually not graded for the grade performance task. The way it looks doesn't matter. I'm sure you still want to make it look pretty, of course, since it's also not too much effort to put in some nice colors and all of this. But for this video, I'm not going to spend more time on the visuals for this. So what we need is a drop down. This is the key of our app that lets us choose the different options. And I'm going to give this the ID of, let's see what makes sense for this one. Let's call this one here just the breed group, like this. Breed group drop down. Perfect. This should be very clear what this is about. This will let us choose the different breed groups. I'm going to have to put in the correct options here in a bit. And then I want a button to actually pick, or let's call it random because it should give us a random dog. And the button ID should be, let's call it pick button or something like this. And then what I want later is to see an image of the dog and to see the name of the breed. So again, for the image here, let's call this, actually let's just keep it as image, or maybe dog image, something like this. Very simple. And label is dog breed label. All right, and initially let's just keep it empty so we see nothing here. Make it a little bigger. This should be fine. As I said, I'm not going to try anything pretty for the visuals for now. You can do this when you're done with all the other parts of the app. Perfect. Let's get started on the code now. So on the code, what we got to do is we have to load in the data, and we have to decide which are the relevant parts of the data. In this case, what is relevant is, of course, the breed group, since we're going to select this. We also want to know the name of the breed. This is relevant. And then the other one that is relevant is the image, because I would like to see an image of the dog. So I need to create variables for those three things. And if you remember from the last video, what you have to do in your grade performance tasks is declare whenever you're using something that is not your own. So I'm going to say using table dogs from code.org to declare that this is not my work. Perfect. And now let's create three variables for all those three lists that I just mentioned. So I want a list for the names of the dog, the name list. Then I want one for the breed group list, and I want one for the images, so image list. Perfect. And what I need to do is read in the actual data. For this one, we use the get column, so we can put this one on all of our three lists, and we can choose the dogs, and the dogs table for all of them. And now let's just choose the correct column. So for the first one, I need to choose the name. For the second one, I need to choose the breed group. And for the third one, I need to choose the image. Perfect. There we go. So now we have read all of these in. And what we should always do is check if everything is working in different steps along the way while we're coding. So I should maybe just put a name list and see if this is loaded successfully. If I press run now, you see this looks very good. We're getting all the different breeds here. And if we put in, let's instead put in the breed group list, then you see we're getting toy, hound, terrier, working, mixed, and so on. So this looks great. This is working very nice. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to define the button and get the different options here. So what we should do is, of course, add the different breed groups we have to our designer here. I will do this now. I'm gonna be a bit lazy. If you're actually working on this, we should make sure it's complete, but I'm just gonna do the first ones I see. So let's do toy, hound, and terrier. That's enough. When you're working on your apps, you can make sure that you have all the options. I'm going to do the first 3 because I can remember this now without going back. So I'm going to go to design. I'm going to select my options here, and I'm going to put in what I just said. So we had toy. We had, what was the second one? I already forgot. Let's do working. I think that was in here for sure. And we had terrier in here. Yeah, I think those 3 definitely exist, no matter which ones the ones were that I just looked into. Perfect. So if we run the app now, you can already see this works. I can choose what I want here. And then when I press the button, I should see a random dog from this breed group down here. Let's make this happen now. So back to the code. What is the next thing we should do? We should have a button. So let's do the button where the user wants to see a random dog as the first thing. So in the button we want to trigger show of random dog for user selection. Let's do something like this as the description for now here, and let's find a on event here. This is how we can detect that the button is pressed. We need to put in the ID that we chose earlier. So that was the pick button that we chose. And from here, we should call a function if we want to follow what the Netflix app did. So we should call a function that actually makes all the magic happen. So that does the filtering and that displays all the information that the user wants. So let's define a function for this. I'm going to put another comment here, function for filtering and picking a random dog. This is what we want next here. And now I'm going to refine this here a little bit. So I'm going to say button to trigger the function. This is what it does. And it should get button to get user input and trigger the function. Okay, so let's define a function. I'm going to define and declare a new function here. So the function, I'm going to call this filter and select. Yeah, let's just call it filter and select. I think this is clear. And the input for this should be, of course, a breed group. So for filtering, we need to have the group here. So I will put in breed group as my parameter for calling this. Very good. And this function here should be called when the user clicks the pick button. So in here, we're going to call this function. We need to make sure the names match, and we need to put in a breed group. For now, I'm just going to hard code this. I'm not going to get the actual input. I'm going to put a string instead, and I'll put in working for here to hard code this, and we add the actual user input later. Cool. Let's work on our main function here now. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create our filtered list. So let's call this filtered name list. We need, of course, one that filters the names. We need one that filters the images. So the filtered image list. These two ones here would be enough. We don't need the breed group list as a filter list actually, because we don't want to show this information. But to keep it simple and easy, I'm just gonna filter all lists here. So I'm gonna also add a filtered breed group list. If you're confused what is happening here, please go back again to the previous unit where the list filter pattern is explained. This is exactly what we're doing now. So we have our original lists with all of the data, and then we filter it for a certain condition so that after the filter process, only those rows of the table, only those items remain that fulfill our filter condition. In our case, we want to filter for a certain dog breed. So after the filtering, only those breeds will remain in the list. Cool. So we have those lists here. We need to initialize them, and we can do so here with this one. I guess I should have chosen this block here instead. You see this one initializes a list, and we can make it empty like this in case you don't have those squared brackets on your keyboard or you don't know where they are. Since I used the general one for variables, I'm just gonna put in those brackets now manually. Just make sure that you find those squared brackets on your keyboards to initialize empty lists, and if you don't, then maybe just do it better than me. Use this one here in the first place, make the list empty by pressing the arrow, and then give it the correct name. Yeah, I chose the other way to do this now. Both is completely possible. So here what we did first is we initialize empty filtered lists. Perfect. Now, I keep adding a new line after this because I always want to press the enter key. Very nice. We have those empty lists now. Now we actually want the filtering to happen. So now filter for the selected breed group. The thing that happens now is we have to iterate over the original list with all the data and filter them to only keep those rows, those items where our breed group is the one that the user selected. To do so, we're going to go to control and we will choose a for loop, and we have to start at 0 and go until the end of the list. All of these three lists will have the same amount of values in them, so I can get the length of each of them, of any of them. It doesn't matter which one I choose. It's just important so that we know how many of those dog breeds we have, that we use length, so we can go to list.length. This is the one we want here. We go from 0 to the list.length, or one less to be precise, and we can put in any of those. I'm just going to take the first one. I'll put in name list, but you could also put in breed group list or image list. It does the same thing. It's the same amount of values that we have in these lists, so the same length. Perfect. And now we want to check our condition. So inside here, we have to use an if statement. And now we're going to do an equality check. So you find this in math. We'll check equals, and we have to check if the breed group is the same as the value inside the filter breed group list. So let me access this. I'm going to take, I'm first going to write this variable here, this parameter. So this is breed group. This is what we check. And we check that the item we're looking at right now, the value we're looking at right now, has the same breed group. So the breed group, the breed we're looking at right now, has a match with the breed group that was selected by the user. To do so, we have to access the list value, and for this we use the list access block. We have to write the correct name of the list. This would be the breed group list. So I'll put this in here, choose the list for which you're checking the condition, and now put in I, because we are not gonna check this for 0 all the time. We start with 0 in the beginning. This is the first one, and then we keep counting up. We keep increasing I by 1 to go through the whole list. Start with index 0 until the end, until the last index, to look at each breed in this table. Perfect. And if this is the case, if we're matching the conditions, then we're gonna take the values and add them to the filtered lists. So we have 3 filtered lists. We need append item 3 times, 1, 2, 3. And now we just use our filtered lists. So we use the filtered name list. This is what we're appending to. We use the filtered breed group list and the filtered image list. Perfect. And now we access the items. So we use access item again, access item a second time and a third time. And now we need to put in the original lists. We get the value from there and we add it to the filtered lists. So we use the name list at the index of I. For the second one, we use the breed group list at the index of I. And for the third one, we use the image list at the index of I. Perfect, that's it. And after this, we should only have the filtered items, the filtered breeds remaining. We can do so, we should check this now. And for once, I'm not going to use a watcher because the watcher just will, if I put the filter list in here and I run the code now, even if I press random, which should trigger the function, you see it says not available. And the reason is that it's only available while this code here still runs. So in order to see this, I would have to put a break statement here and press this again. If I keep stepping now, if I press continue, then you see with each iteration of the loop here, every time we end up here, you see we keep checking, we keep checking, we keep checking, and when we find a match, let's wait, then it actually gets appended. Do you see that? So let's add the other lists also. We can add the filtered breed group list and the filtered image list. And if I press continue again, then it keeps running, checks the condition here. And when we find one, then we actually add all of these items and they start popping up here. I can actually reset the code. Let's do it from the side one more time. Let's press random and we see the code starts here. We're first loading in the information from here. Let me press one more time. Yes. And then we're in here, we keep checking, and when we find some, then we append the information to the lists. When you press continue, then you also see the image popping up here. It's a little bit complicated with how to set the breaks here. Play with this so that you see the information, but the thing that you just have to note here is if you run this in fast and you put in your filtered lists, then you're just going to see nothing. If you want to see something, you can slow down the code. This will also work. If I press random now, I just have to be a bit patient until I end up here. And now you should see the lists. Oh, yeah, now you should see the list here being initialized and being built up just as soon as we're at the end of the program. So if I speed it up again, then you see the lists become empty. What you can do as an alternative, if you find this confusing, is you can use a log statement. So you have this here also in variables. You should have console.log exactly. We can put this at the end of the for loop and we could put inside here now, for example, the filtered, let me copy it, filtered name list like this. And if I run it now, then full speed again, then you see inside the console, we see now the filtered list logged. Okay, but enough about this. Now to the next step here. I'm going to get rid of this one again. Now, after the filtering worked successfully, we want to only show one random dog. So pick a random dog out of the filtered list. I did it again. Let's remove this. Perfect. We need a variable that stores the index of this random pick. We can call it index. We can even make it a bit more precise and call it random index so that it's very clear what this does. And to have a random index, we're going to use the random number here, which needs to be from 0 as the range, from 0 to the length of what we're doing, -1. We do the -1 here because if we include the length, then it's one too many. The length of a list is always one more than the last index, because for the index we start counting with 0. So now we just get the length of the list.length. And again, you can use any of the filtered lists here because they all have the same length. I'm going to do the name list here. Feel free to use any of those three. They're all going to be fine. And now that I have this, I only need to show the information on the screen. So I'm going to use set text now. Let's find set text to display the name of the dog. Let's check design again. We have this dog breed label. Here we want to show the name of the dog. So dog breed label is the one. And here we want to, again, get the information from the list. In this case, we need the filtered names list. And we pick the index that we picked randomly here for showing a dog. So this is going to be an index that is in the range of our filtered lists to pick a random dog. And now we also want the image, so we can use, if you don't know how it works, you can click the image. You can see this one here has a property image where we want to put the image link. So let's do this. Let's use set property. Where is set property? Here, get property. I probably just skipped it. Let me find it. Set number, set, where do we have the set property? Here it is, set property. Let's use this one. And here we pick the dog image. We have to pick image now, and then we can use the list access again. This time the filtered image list, and as index again the same one, because we want the image for the name that we're showing. And if we run this now, let's see if it works. So let's use working, press, wait a second here. Everything right? I hope so. Let's press random. Oh, and here we go. I think I pressed too early. You always have to give the app a second to actually load the initial lists. So these ones here take a second to load from the data set. See if I press run. Yeah, it takes a moment until this actually loads. So once this is loaded, I can press random and I'm going to see the picture and I'm going to see the name of the breed. Let's press it again and we're going to see another one, and again, and we'll see another one. Perfect. Now the only thing that is not done yet is right now we always get working. So we just have to use also get text, this one here, and we want to get the text of our drop down. So the breed group drop down, let's choose this one now, and that should be it, I think. If I choose toy now, let's see if we're gonna get a toy. Oh, reset first. Let's run this. If I choose toy now, let's see if it's a toy dog. Yeah, that looks like a toy dog, right? Looks very toy. Let's go to terrier. Yeah, West Highland White Terrier. So this works. As you can see, the app is functional. It's not pretty. You can make it pretty yourselves. But it's a working app that fulfills all the criteria of the create performance task. Because this is quite long, I'm not going to go over the criteria again. Just a few ideas here at the end. You can make this more complicated. If you think back to the example here, we had two different categories to choose from. We used an AND statement to filter for both. This is something you can do too. You could also make it more complicated and make this, for example, a random dog breed guesser or something like this. So it could select a dog, show you the picture, and then you have another button to actually reveal the breed name to make this more interactive. Or you could show several dogs like we did here, where we showed a list of dog names, you could do the same thing here. Add different images, give them a different index, give the image UI elements here different IDs, and then you can do that too. So there's a lot you can do. What I just would recommend is start simple, get a simple app like this done, and then you can expand it. You can make it more complicated. Make sure to think about something that makes sense, an app that is useful, like here, if you want to learn about dog breeds. Think about something like this, that makes sense, that is useful, and that fulfills all these requirements by going over the list and filtering for a condition. That's it. In the next video, I will show you how to prepare the submission, how all of this works. But for now, you have all the information you need to create your own apps. One more time, this is inspired by the Netflix app, so you can do the same thing. Look at the code of the Netflix app and use this as inspiration for your own code. Follow those principles and create your own app. Good luck.